The ancient Egyptians and Romans were two of the most influential civilizations in history, each leaving an indelible mark on the world. But what if these two great powers had gone to war? How would such a conflict have unfolded? To explore this hypothetical scenario, we must first examine the strengths and weaknesses of both civilizations during their respective peaks and consider how they might have faced each other in battle. At the height of their power, the ancient Egyptians, particularly during the New Kingdom period around 1500 BCE, were a formidable force. One of their primary advantages in any potential war with Rome would be their geographical location. Egypt's most valuable resource was the Nile River, which provided a constant source of water and fertile land, supporting both the economy and military. The river also acted as a natural barrier, creating difficulty for invading forces. The Egyptians were able to leverage this geography to maintain a stable supply of food, water, and military resources, even during times of conflict. Egyptian military strategies were deeply rooted in defensive warfare, capitalizing on their environment. They were known for their chariotry, archery, and the use of spearmen. Chariots, in particular, were highly effective in the flat terrain of Egypt and surrounding regions. During the New Kingdom, Egyptian chariot units were some of the most advanced in the ancient world, capable of maneuvering swiftly on the battlefield and inflicting significant damage on their enemies. In addition, Egypt's military success was often intertwined with religious and cultural beliefs. Pharaohs were not only political leaders, but were considered divine, and this divine mandate often gave their armies an additional sense of purpose and morale. The Egyptians' spiritual connection to their homeland, combined with their formidable defensive tactics, would have given them a significant edge in any initial confrontations. On the other hand, the Romans had a distinct military advantage. By the time of the Roman Empire under Emperor Trajan, around 117 CE, Rome had perfected the art of warfare. Roman legions were highly disciplined, and their battle formations, such as the famous testudo or tortoise formation, provided them with impressive defense against arrows and other projectiles. In addition, the Romans had mastered siege warfare, enabling them to overcome even the most fortified cities. They were also well equipped with advanced weapons such as the gladius, a short sword, and pilum, a throwing spear, both of which were designed for close combat and long-range engagements. Another significant advantage for Rome was its unparalleled infrastructure. Roman engineers were skilled at constructing roads, bridges, and even floating bridges, allowing their armies to move swiftly across difficult terrain. This logistical capability would have been a decisive factor in any campaign against Egypt. The Romans' ability to reinforce their legions and sustain long-term military campaigns with advanced supply lines was one of the key reasons for their success in expanding their empire. Moreover, the Romans had a vast empire with resources spread across Europe, North Africa, and parts of Asia. This wealth and the ability to draw from a massive pool of soldiers would have made it difficult for the Egyptians to maintain a prolonged defense against such a vast and experienced enemy. If a war between the Egyptians and Romans were to take place, the outcome would depend on several factors, including the specific conditions of the battle, the strategies employed, and the involvement of leadership. Let's imagine a scenario where the Romans, seeking to expand their empire, launch an invasion of Egypt. The Egyptians would likely begin the conflict by relying on their home terrain. The Nile River would be both a strategic asset and a potential trap for the Romans. Egyptian forces could use their chariots and archers to harass the Romans as they advanced along the riverbanks, employing hit-and-run tactics. The Egyptians could also leverage the harsh desert environment, using their knowledge of the land to avoid direct engagement and force the Romans to waste valuable resources. However, Rome's logistical advantage and their ability to adapt to different battle conditions would eventually tip the scales. The Romans would likely employ their superior engineering skills to build roads and bridges across the Nile, securing their supply lines and enabling reinforcements. Their legions would likely form their famous testudo formations, offering protection against Egyptian archers while pushing forward. Once the battle shifted from long-range engagements to close-quarters combat, Rome's disciplined legions would likely overwhelm the Egyptian forces, who were more reliant on their chariotry and archery. While the Egyptians had the advantage of fighting on their home turf, Rome's ability to call upon reinforcements from across the empire would be a decisive factor. The Romans' vast military resources could be brought to bear against Egypt, outnumbering the Egyptian defenders over time. Additionally, Egypt's reliance on religious and cultural morale would play a crucial role. The Egyptian people and soldiers were deeply connected to the idea that their pharaohs were divinely ordained to lead them, which could boost morale in battle. However, as the war dragged on and the Egyptians faced defeat, the loss of this divine connection could potentially weaken their resolve. On the other hand, the Romans, with their efficient and pragmatic approach to warfare, would likely remain unyielding in the face of adversity. So, who would win in a war between the Egyptians and Romans? While Egypt's home field advantage and their advanced chariotry would present a challenge for the Romans, Rome's superior military tactics, discipline, and logistical infrastructure would likely lead to their eventual victory. The Romans were masters at adapting to different battlefields, and their ability to mobilize vast resources and troops would likely overwhelm Egypt's defenses over time. However, it is important to note that the conflict would not have been an easy or one-sided victory for Rome. The Egyptians would have fought valiantly, and the Romans would have needed to adapt their strategies to deal with the unique challenges posed by the Egyptian environment. It's possible that a prolonged war could have resulted in significant losses on both sides before Rome emerged victorious. In the end, while this hypothetical war would have been an epic clash between two great civilizations, history tells us that Rome eventually absorbed Egypt into its empire in 30 BCE. Yet imagining this conflict at their respective peaks gives us an intriguing glimpse into what could have been one of the most fascinating battles of the ancient world. If you had enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment.